Hello, my name is Steve.
I'm David.
This is Anime Plus. We are going to talk about the fourth movie within our watch through of the Universal Century of Gundam, which is the compilation movie for the 1991-1992 OAV series 0083 Stardust Memories. And the compilation movie was given the title
The Afterglow of Zeon. So we open the film with Nina Purpleton kind of narrating
3 years since the end of the...
Basically narrating 3 years since the end of the 1 Year War. We get a little bit of a recap of the Battle of Boaku, where what turns out to be the main villains of the movie basically skedaddle away from the battle so that they can carry on the true Zeon title rather than the fake Republic of Zeon that signed the armistice with the Federation. This ultimately leads up to Gato going and stealing Unit 2 from the Albion, which is the same model of ship as the White Base, stationed in Australia, several miles away from where the Principality of Zeon had dropped a colony to start the 1 Year War. A big battle ensues, where First Lieutenant Ko Araki hops into Unit 1 and chases after Gato in an attempt to bring back the stolen mobile suit. He ultimately escapes. First Lieutenant Ko, along with several other members of the base in Australia, hop into assorted different mobile suits, including refurbished Zaku's, GMs, and basically we get a pretty quick battle sequence, basically showing that these remnants of Zeon are trying to escape with the mobile suit, and Homie escapes. And with his escape begins much of the movie's plot of, oh boy, we got to get Unit 2 back.
Well, because Unit 2 was loaded with a nuclear warhead.
Yes, which, illegal, breaks the Antarctic Treaty. I called that one out even before they mentioned that it broke the Antarctic Treaty in the movie. I was like, that's illegal. And then later in the movie, after Zeon itself, or not Zeon itself, but this remnant for the Delaz fleet obtains Unit 2 and realize it has a nuclear weapon in it, they're like, you broke the Antarctic Treaty.
They use that as justification for their aggression.
And
they're about
the declaration
to
of war. Yeah. And then the movie shifts to just...
Well, let's see. So they chase Unit 2 and its contingent into space.
Yeah. And
they end up
chasing that for a good 30 to almost 40 minutes of the movie. They end up on the moon because the Gundam is destroyed. Unit 1 is destroyed by Unit 2 because Gato is a much better pilot than Ko.
There was a problem with the maneuvering programming for Unit 1.
Yeah, which Homie knocked out of Nina's hand.
Well, he had his own disc. He had been digging into the data and trying to perfect the system. And so he had his own combat protocol disc that he was going to load into it. Nina tries to hand him her updated maneuvering disc. And he's just like, no, he's like 19 or 20, so he just threw a fit.
And we get this budding relationship between Nina and Ko as well.
Gundam gets messed up. The company that Nina works for that developed these two successors to the original Gundam, because the RX was destroyed.
It's on the moon. This company repairs Unit 1, and from that, it basically Looney Tunes chase music.
Ko goes AWOL because he got his butt kicked, and then the dude with the 70s mustache, whose name I don't remember, the more experienced Federation pilot.
Yeah.
So the thing that they don't get into in the movie, and we're kind of digging into this right now, that they got into in this series, is there was this contest between a bunch of the pilots to see who was going to get the right to pilot Unit 1. And it was primarily between Ko and then Mustache Boy. When he and his squad show, because him and 2 other pilots show up to the Albion just after Ko does, he's trying to bed Nina and a couple other women immediately. Dude is the archetypical philanderous fighter pilot from Top Gun. So him and Ko had been butting heads the entire time they were on Earth, left it, and were on their way to the moon. That's why there was that scene in the canteen where he's like got all that data and like Mustache Boy shows up and pretty much tells Ko to go fuck off.
And then Nina ate his carrots.
And then Ko like threw a fit and ran off.
Yeah.
Because there had been this rivalry that had been going on the entire time between them. It had probably been a couple of days of just intense like back and forth between each other over the right to be selected to pilot Unit 1. So when Ko disregarded his commander, the dude who got messed up when they were chasing Gato, which they really... The movie skipped through some interesting components of the story.
I bet there were some parts where I'm just like,
yeah.
Why did dude break his leg?
His commanding officer was like, take my unit. And Ko's like, screw that, and dove himself into Unit 1 and then failed. So they're at the moon, and everybody's blowing off steam at the bar, and Mustache Boy just rails into Ko again because Ko truly screwed up, and that's when Ko wanders off and gets his ass whooped by a couple of
thugs.
Lunar citizens who are not fond of someone wearing a Federation uniform.
And then he gets found by a ex-Zeon guy who's building some mobile armor in
Kelly,
the basement.
the one-armed man.
Who I immediately was like, Char? Wait.
No, Char still has his arm.
Yeah. Both
of them, in fact.
As soon as I saw the no arm, I was like, that's not Char.
No.
How dare you stand where he stood? And basically here, Ku learns the lesson of finishing what you start is basically the idea I got from that
humility,
section.
Maybe?
Yeah. And
helps him kind of fix the mobile armor.
Goes back to the Albion, tests the Gundam after it got fixed and updated. And
so they didn't cover it in that movie, but Kelly was working with Delez, and he was preparing the mobile armor for Delez, thinking that he was going to get a chance to pilot it to work with Delez.
Nice.
Yeah. He ends up showing up and fighting and then dying.
Oh, nice.
So they cut all of that out. So I don't even understand
why they kept that.
Why they even put in the part where him and Ko like met.
And then we find out that Delez has recruited a questionable Zeon officer, Sima, who Gato is just like, I don't like her motives.
She's untrustworthy.
She's not honorable. Zeon's about honor.
Zeon attracts some weird people.
Because the Zabis were totally honorable people.
Yeah.
Okay, Dozel was. But beyond that,
yes,
we get this development that the Zeon are trying to enact this Operation Stardust, which is TLDR. We're going to yeet another colony at Earth. And yeah.
But they do a lot of trixies.
Both of the Gundam suits get Unit 1 and Unit 2 both get destroyed.
They destroy each other, yeah.
Yeah, they destroy each other. Ko gets Unit 3.
Yep.
Which is a really sick spaceship attachment.
Well, all the stuff that's attached to it make it look cool.
And then Gato gets his own mobile armor.
That's the mobile armor that Kelly was building.
There you go.
If I remember correctly. I'm almost positive that's what Kelly was building or repairing.
And it's got extendo claws. We forgot a huge important part. Again, like 2/3 of the Federation fleet is destroyed by a super weapon.
Because, Unit 2...
Unit 2 yeeted a nuke.
Shoots the nuke at them and wipes out a bunch of them.
It wipes out like 2/3 of the Federation fleet. Again.
Well, no, it was a third, but still. Who's counting at this point?
Oh, I thought they said 2/3 was inoperable.
A third got wiped out or was it not combat ready due to the attack.
Okay.
But the Federation still had overwhelming forces versus this little band of people that were claiming to be Zeon.
The ultimate battle ensues. They're trying to chase this colony before it gets to a point where it will inevitably crash into the Earth.
After they had initially made it look to like it was going to crash into the moon.
Yeah.
And then at the last moment,
because
diverted its trajectory.
Some lunar dude was like, I'm going to activate its engines and send it colliding at Earth.
Well, because he was making deals with Sima.
Yeah, there was a lot.
There was a lot going on. There was a lot of back channel negotiations between all of the sides.
Anyway, colony yeeted at Earth. Federation's like, can't let that happen. Pull out the solar flare.
Yeah, they do Solar System Mark II.
Yeah. So they try to shoot the colony with a solar flare. The command ship gets blown up by Gato and its mobile armor.
Yep.
Only fires enough to slightly singe the colony.
It nudged it
a little bit.
So instead of landing on
the
base in South America, what is that called? Jogoro, yeah.
They never said in the
movie. It
movie.
landed in North America.
I would say they never said in the movie where it crashed.
They do in the afterwards.
Anyway, Zeon kind of succeeds, kind of doesn't.
Deleuze.
Deleuze gets his brains blown out by Seema, who's actually working for the Federation, kind of.
Seema cut a deal with certain people in the Federation to save her skin and her crew's skin because she realized that this campaign was fruitless because of how small their forces were. But she was more than willing to do a little bit of damage in the meantime.
Yeah, so she, puts a new air hole in dude's head. She ultimately gets oofed by the GDO.
Yeah,
by Unit 3, but he blows her up with the battleship-sized cannon. And then, colony crashes into Earth. For some reason, Ko is court-martialed. Nina decides that she likes Gato more than Ko.
That happened before the colony crashed.
Right. But we find out that she's two-timing Ko with a Zeon war criminal, basically.
She and Gato had a history together.
We get the formation of the Titans, which Steve tells me is very important for Zeta Gundam.
And we also get the introduction of Axis.
And the introduction of Axis as well.
And Axis was waiting at the outskirts of the battle, picking up any survivors from this ragtag group of...
Because they're from the Republic of Zeon, right?
No.
No?
No.
Then why weren't they attacked?
Because everything was about negotiations and back-channel dealings.
The Federation's corrupt.
Yes, it is. Which is why we included this in the watch-through of the Universal Century. The story itself for Stardust Memories is irrelevant to the larger narrative, or the bulk of it is irrelevant to the larger narrative of the Universal Century, but the fallout for the conclusion of the story is vitally important for rolling into Zeta Gundam, because it sets up the state of politics and the power dynamic between the different factions in the system. So we had, the group of Zeon holdouts who tried to do their little rebellion, but meanwhile, there has been another group that has harbored themselves around a chunk of rock that's referred to as Axis. So they showed an image of a woman with a Karen haircut at one point.
Yeah.
Reddish hair. She is the liaison for the last remaining Zavi, which is Dozel's daughter.
Oh, yeah.
So Axis is the true continuation of the Zavi family Zeon
dynasty.
I forget the woman who is essentially Minerva's because Minerva's 7. No, at this point she is 5 or 6. Maybe a little bit younger.
She was a baby.
She was she was pretty much an infant.
So she would be 3 or 4.
Yeah. So obviously she can't rule. So this woman with the red hair, whose name I forget, but we'll learn it when we roll into Z. She is the regent.
Yeah.
For Minerva. So that's Axis. So Axis has now seen this event that's happened and can think upon it and plan. At the same time, you have factions within the Federation, predominantly helmed up by the oddly drawn gentleman with the permanent cyberpunk swim goggles stuck to his face.
Oh, yeah.
Bosk Ohm, who forms the Titans, and he becomes a very powerful person within the Federation itself. And so when we roll into Zeta, which takes place in 0087.
God, they're just the littlest time skips. Also, I was pretty thrown off when they're a generation of soldiers that hasn't known war. I'm it's been 3 years. How did they not know? It was 3 years ago.
The 1 Year War was a terrible event.
Half of humanity died. How did they not?
Hyperbole. I don't know. Stardust Memories was originally a 13-episode OAV series. It was the second OAV series that Sunrise did for Gundam, following 0080 War in the Pocket. Stardust Memories is considered the height at that point of Gundam. They put a lot of money into making the OAVs for Stardust Memories. The production value was significantly higher, and it set the tone for story and art and mechanical direction for Gundam through the rest of the decade.
What is funny is I see, watching this and almost being done with Iron-Blooded Orphans, I see a lot of similarities, even though they're separated by almost 2 decades.
Oh, yes.
I can see that it set the standard for what constitutes a Gundam show, even outside of the Universal Century. Yeah.
Stardust Memories really kind of templated the idea of a Gundam story moving forward, at least for the very basics from the design philosophy and the attention and the higher attention to detail. So it'll be a little bit jarring when we bounce back in time to do Zeta,
Because what, Zeta was 85?
85 or 86, something like that, yeah. So, Zeta was like 5 or 6 years after the OG. And even that couple of years, we do get a significant upgrade in artwork. I want to find influence from like other anime from that time period. Like there are certain things within the themes and the character design that really reminded me of Akira. More strikingly is how similar some of the themes, especially intercharacter relationships that appear in Stardust Memories, also show up in Macross Plus. Even the character design is very similar to Macross Plus. You didn't get the chance to watch the OAV, but there's an amount that's missing that seems weird that it was missing, and there's some stuff that was included that doesn't necessarily need to have been included. Like the whole thing with Kelly. They didn't show the conclusion of his interactions with Ko, because there's a point where he and Ko battle. If I remember correctly, I think it was Ko who killed him. It was weird that they cut that out, but added him in the beginning when they didn't necessarily need to. I don't know. And then in the first couple of minutes, when Nina is doing her overview narration, you're showing an event that's going to show up in 5 more minutes, where Gato is stealing Unit 2. Like, they showed it twice, and I don't understand what the point of that was. Some of the dialogue referenced things that didn't happen in the movie, that happened in the show. That just seems weird, even if you don't know. After they lost the fight with Gato in Australia, they referenced the tragic death of somebody that you never saw, you never met him. But it takes place in the first episode of the OAV, and it does kind of impact Ko and his buddy. I don't know. They made some choices that seemed questionable with the movie.
Yeah.
But, overall, it told the story that it needed to tell. Stardust Memories was my initial introduction to Gundam at the end of the 90s. I knew somebody who had some of the fan subs on tape, and I watched like the first 3 or 4 episodes. And I'm like, this is kind of cool. And then that was Gundam for me for a long time, until I watched Gundam X. I think as a story, it's kind of sloppy, and the characters themselves, in many cases, are not convincing as real characters, particularly Nina. So she's a highly respected professional within her career and her company, and she acts like a child in some situations, like when Ko and Gato are fighting. She's like crying on the deck of the Albion. The writing for her seemed conflicted, because sometimes they would present her as a strong person, and then at other times they would present her as a weak, childish girl, and it seemed bad. Ko's character made sense. He's an immature 19 or 20-year-old who's just full of emotions and whatever.
And wants revenge.
He's going to act the way he's going to act. That's fine. Gato, he has his convictions. He is a storied veteran. He's probably late 20s, I would imagine. Mid to late 20s.
Yeah, probably.
So his character was convincing as well. And, well, for you're seeing again, for at least, in the storyline, the first time we get a repeat of the conflicted love triangle from the original Gundam. So you've got Ko as Amuro, you have Nina as Lala, and then you have Gato as Char. Pretty much the same exact situation, especially with Nina revealing that she has a past and feelings for Gato to Ko as Ko's trying to kill him. Well, I mean, shot him.
Yeah.
Shot him.
Decked him right in the side.
The story has some issues when it comes down to the details, but it's important because it really sets up the context of governance in the Universal Century moving into Zeta. It feels really jarring, story-wise, to go from Mobile Suit Gundam and the Federation being the good guys, the virtuous people, to 7 years later in Zeta, to all of a sudden, at least part of the Federation is really fascist. It seems real weird. But all of that fascism was generated here through the machinations of a couple of people, mostly Basco. What did you think of Stardust Memories?
It's a lot of fun.
That works great.
Yeah. Beautiful.
Some of the character design's a little weird. They got big-ass bulbous chins. Kind of weird.
Also, Ko's haircut is not doing him any favors.
Ko is missing a chunk of the top of his head.
Yeah, that too.
Like, they didn't necessarily do his character design with keeping in mind the perspectives of a human head.
Yeah.
His hair was pretty thin and pretty tight, though. Next week, we kick off with the first compilation movie for Zeta Gundam.
Woo.
Maybe at this point, I've probably watched about a third of the Gundam stories that exist. Probably. Maybe closer. I don't know. Anyways, I still have a lot of Gundam to watch, but Zeta so far might be the best Gundam story I've seen out of all of them. It's a toss-up for me between that and Thunderbolt, but Zeta's really good, and this is going to be a lot of fun getting into that. All right, well, thanks for listening. Let us know what, if you have seen the Stardust Memories compilation movie, how they, in my words, butchered a relatively decent OAV that just had problems with character development. Oh, yeah, like, because of the truncated time, it really made the characters seem more bipolar than what they really were in the OAVs. Like, you would get one segment, they have all this really strong emotion in one angle, and then a minute later, they have a completely different strong emotion because you're missing time and context in the actual story. I think my judgment is they did a disservice to the story by making the compilation movie the way they did. Maybe they should have done two, I don't know. The problem with Mobile Suit Gundam, though, the original series, is it had a lot of fluff. They cut a lot of that fluff out, especially in the first half. Anyways, let us know what you think. Otherwise, don't forget to check out the Friday episodes of the podcast where we are talking about the season 2 of the remake of Ranma 1/2. Other than that, thanks for listening, and we will check you guys later.